Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 20th episode of the Triboro Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Alonso. As always, joined on the other side, Nicholas O'Brien, trying another setup because we are experimenting.
Because college is a time for experimentation.
I was going to make that joke if you didn't
for
make that.
podcasts.
For podcasting.
Obviously, that's what we're talking
Only
about.
podcasting.
But yeah, new setup, so I think I like it.
I like it too.
I'm comfy.
I'm comfy too, except I hate
But
this chair.
It's been a while since
Been.
We did that home run draft last time.
Draft, yes.
And besides
it's because you were so embarrassed to come on here after you saw how good my team was.
Yeah. Even though my team, because of course I look at the projections, is projected the most home runs. But if you didn't see that episode, go check it out. We had our roommates Evan and Joe on.
Oh, my team is projecting to have the most home runs.
Yes, I have glasses. I get it.
Yeah.
But go check it out. We had our roommates on, Joe and Evan. It was a really fun time. It was a really fun episode. So, yeah. But forget that. That was last episode.
Yeah,
this is this
that.
episode.
Yeah. Just, we're going to talk about how Garrett Cole, is he even the ace anymore?
I don't know. It's in the same breath. It's looking at, Marte is now an MVP candidate.
Stan is hitting 100 in spring training. I know it's you just got to DFA him.
Right, but I think what you're missing is Tyrone Taylor is taking over the center field job. They're going to cut Harrison Bader. He hasn't even played a game yet. Tyrone Taylor and Trace Thompson, they're your starting center fielder and left fielder.
Dude, Aaron Judge doesn't have a home run this spring.
He's washed.
He's washed. Trade him.
Just like...
DFA him.
Just like, what's his face? His name. Nate Lavender.
Nate Lavender?
He's the new closer. Diaz hasn't even pitched. Nate Lavender's the guy.
Dude, I don't know.
He has not let up a hit, let alone a run. He has struck out almost every single hitter he has faced so far.
Mm-hmm. If you could not tell, we are doing satire on people that think spring training stuff actually matters.
Yes.
It's good to look into the numbers, because I didn't tell you this, but I have I'm going to surprise you with a chart that I'm bringing up that you never would have expected me to bring up.
Oh, boy.
And, yeah. There are good things from spring training, of course. But people overreact so much to the very littlest things. Like I said, and I'm going to mention this when we get to the Bronx. Judge doesn't have a home run, but he's hitting .333 with 1,000 OPS. Right.
Again, and everything is going to be a small sample size.
Yes.
So everything you want to look at is mechanics.
Yes.
For a pitcher, this is the time. This is the time for experimentation for pitchers. Is it a new pitch, a new windup? Smoother mechanics, stuff like that. For a hitter, different swing, different load. Is he lifting the ball more? Brett Beatty's still pounding it into the ground, that's an issue. He's still killing worms. But that's what spring training's for. Yes, the results may look good, the results may look bad, but at the end of the day, I'm starting to hate this, so I wouldn't blame for people hating this saying either, but trust the process. It's about the process, not the results.
Yes. I say you just watch it for 2 or 3 players, and when they're not playing, you just do other stuff.
Exactly. Once it's the, non-roster invites, the journeyman minor leaguers.
Then you watch for one guy because you're one of your top prospects.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's it. But yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got, so we'll stop teasing it. We'll actually get into it.
We'll get into it.
Starting off with the best one, because we always like to give our best. Let's go to the Bronx.
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bronx.
Bronx Town.
So, Benjamin, out on the spring training games, not a lot of injuries, but some injury updates. Who had a burpee a little? Another burpee.
Burpee?
Yeah.
On the ground.
On the ground?
Burpees.
Go.
2 burpees.
Go.
No, you.
That's it.
That's it.
So just quickly, running through the injury update. Oswald Peraza is describing his feeling pinching in his right shoulder. I don't know.
It's just
They said that he should return soon. I think that's just one of those things that's who really cares.
A ramp-up process.
Trevino, this was said about a week ago that he will play either Wednesday or Thursday. We're recording this on Monday, so we don't have in grain of salt because there's an article written by Randy Miller. But just based on the timeline and what they were saying, this is when he should come back. And Alex Verdugo was scratched Sunday because of a shin contusion after being hit by a pitch Saturday. That's fine.
Right.
If that happens, guys
rub
are
some
going to
dirt
get
on it.
What?
Rub some dirt on it.
Like that's.
He'll be fine. If it was a regular season game, he's playing.
He's playing. Yeah, I don't really. You don't want to risk that.
Right.
He's on a contract here. Doesn't want to risk. Doesn't want to get in spring training. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow they're doing good with injuries so far. Yeah. All right. So then we also got some roster moves. So first off, we got a bunch of reassignments to minor league camp. You got catcher Josh Briux, I can never pronounce his name. Catcher Ben Rice, right-handed pitcher Joey Gerber that I've never heard of before. Right-handed pitcher Art Warren and Chase Hampton to minor league camp. They outrighted Johan Roschans to the AAA roster. Remember earlier in the year, or earlier in spring, he was DFA'd, so that's kind of just one of those, like, oh my god, what's kind of bookkeeping, I guess you would say? Because some people, they get options, we'll get into, like, the word outrighted, compared. Then Luis Hill and Yondris Gomez have been optioned at AAA. Something to note, all the guys that have been optioned or signed to minor league camp, they still can play in spring training for the major league team. It's one of those weird things that, like...
Yeah, it's basically, like, they don't have a shot making opening day roster. It's kind of just like, hey, you're still going to play, even a little bit, but it's kind of like, you are starting in the minors.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of just like a definitive, like, this is where you're starting, but we're still going to give you some time.
Yeah. Like, Luis Hill, for example, I think that he's just not ready to come back from Tommy John, because he was electric when he did come up. Was that him or Davey Garcia that started against the Mets in their debut?
I think that was Garcia.
Yeah, Garcia, I remember him, 6 scoreless in the COVID year?
Something like that, yeah.
Regardless, and now I think he's on the White Sox. But, yeah, I just think Luis Hill isn't ready yet. Hopefully, big addition to kind of like that depth. I think him and Gomez kind of are those, like, 6 and 7 guys if no one gets added. But yeah, that's really all I got for roster moves because there wasn't really that much.
Right, it's still early.
It is still
like a week, 2 weeks, give or take.
Yeah, about
into it. Yeah.
But then I love it when my computer just freezes when I try to bring stuff up. Like it's incredible. It's just incredible.
You wanna know why?
God, because it's a good computer.
Because it's a Mac.
Oh my god. This man just hates Macs and it makes no sense whatsoever.
It makes perfect sense.
Makes no sense. It just...
all the sense.
Makes no sense. I don't know why it's not on me. Okay, there we go. So, let's start off with the good. Let's start off with the best player in baseball. His name is Han Soto. First off, did you know he's 6'2"?
No.
I would have thought he was like 6 foot 5'11". Just when you like see him standing next to Judge and like Joe and Stanton.
Well, that's never a good comparison.
But it's like he's also only 11 pounds lighter than Spencer Jones.
Jeez.
Yeah.
He's also very like scrunched. Like his batting stance. He's very like very closed.
Very closed. Yeah.
It's like spring.
Okay.
Ah.
No, but then getting into the numbers, in 9 at-bats, he has 6 hits, 3 home runs, 2 doubles, for a 6.67 batting average, 727 on base, 2.616 OPS.
Insane.
I know his spring training stats don't matter.
It's just funny to look at them.
But that's silly.
It is.
Like, that is literally, like, I can't do that in MLB The Show.
No.
Like, I can't even get close to that in MLB The Show. It really is silly.
It is.
Just to see that and just what we've seen of the lineup kind of, when you have those, like, first 4 or 5 guys in there, just being able to put that pressure, that, like, that'd be nice. It gets you excited.
Pleasing to the eyes.
It is. Like, when you look at this lineup, there's people that will literally say, like, Juan Soto will make a difference in this lineup. That may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of all time. Like, that's not even a bias thing. He's quite literally top 3 hitter in baseball, top 5 hitter in baseball, whatever, however you want to split hairs.
Yeah.
And we have the best hitter in baseball already in this lineup. So you're having 2 top 5 hitters back-to-back in your lineup. And then you also have Rizzo, who I didn't know this, I don't know the exact numbers in front of me. From 2022 until when he got concussed, he had the 12th highest WRC plus in the leagues.
People are writing off Rizzo just because of his unfortunate.
Because the training staff didn't know, like, oh, he has a concussion.
Right, but I don't want to call him a game changer, but Rizzo is a very important part of this lineup.
Yes. And you also have to realize, too, he has a good amount of money on the line. Because the Yankees have a buyout, so like his next year's contract isn't guaranteed. They only have a $3 million buyout, so if he's okay, they're just gonna buy him out. That's not gonna cost you anything. So he almost is another one of these guys that's on like a pseudo contract year.
Right, potential contract.
Yeah, you got guys Soto, Labor, Verdugo. They have a good amount of guys on contract years.
Right.
And that's another thing that people like play into it, where I don't have notes about Labor like how he's on the spring, but he's not on.
Right.
And people are the amount of future that Gleyber Torres gets is absolutely ridiculous for no reason. I didn't even have anything about Gleyber in the notes. I really only had like 5 players, like hitters that I wanted to talk about. But I will die for Gleyber Torres. I will take 3 bullets for him. I'll pull a fire with Sean and I'll have a bullet in my thigh and not get it removed for 6 months. Gotta give some credit to the thyroid.
Gleyber is incredibly underrated. I want you to look at the league and tell me which second baseman you can lock for 20 home runs.
Yes.
And Gleyber can hit 30.
There's one I can think of off the top of my head.
Right, Simeon.
Yeah.
You call it Simeon, Altuve.
Altuve Alpha.
Right.
So it's like, he's not even necessarily a lock.
Right, so like, you got Gleyber, and then, maybe Ketel Marte? You know, on the other side of town, Jeff McNeil isn't hitting 20 home runs.
He may hit 10.
Right. And McNeil is very dependent on his batting average. Yeah. If he's not a 300 hitter, he's not a great player in the lineup. Gleyber is. He's a power hitting second baseman, which is not very common around the league.
And it's not even like, he's a low average power hitting second baseman. Like, let me get this up really quickly.
Well, like off the top of my head,
he hit 273 last
year. I was just going to say, it's like a 270 hitter.
347 on base.
Right. Like, it's not a lot of second basemen that are going to do that.
Yeah. And just...
Which also, I think, plays into his contract. But
yeah,
that could be a discussion for another time.
That definitely does. Anyways, just to actually get, back on track. So, we talked on the radio show about Spencer Jones.
Triboro Sports Show on Fridays from 5 to 6.
But this week we're going to be on from Thursday to 6 to 7.
Yes.
The link will be in the description down below. We talked about Spencer Jones. How, I forget what it was at the time, it was like 56 pitches without swinging and missing.
Yeah.
That number's now up to 76 without swinging and missing. This guy was known for being just like 30 plus strikeout percentage guy in the minors. And that was kind of like the biggest concern with him. He's not swinging and missing at all.
Right.
Granted, I think he's maybe taking it a little bit too extreme.
Right.
But still, just to be able to see that plate discipline, it also is a thing that we can't. I know you feel differently than me about this. I hate not being able to see the home plate outline of what the strike zone is.
Yeah.
That pisses me off so much because I want to know, was that good on the player or was that a shit call?
Right.
Because there have been so many calls with him where it's like, he'll be called strike 3 on the corner. Where it's like, was that?
Was it that?
It's just like, I don't know because I can't see it. But when you look at his numbers, 11 at bats, 455 batting average, 538 on base, 1.265 OPS. He looks incredible. And we talked about this on the radio show as well. He may be ready at the end of the year, but I don't want to see him at the end of the year.
Right.
Because if you see him at the end of the year, that means something went wrong.
Right. Yeah, I think I've said that in the past. But yeah, exact to your point. If you see Spencer Jones at any point during this year, forget about like a September call-up, something's wrong.
Yes.
Someone got injured or something of that, or regardless.
Or you sold everyone at the deadline.
Right, but something went terribly wrong.
Yeah. So that's just, as well as he's doing, also have to realize spring training.
Right.
Not the biggest deal. But just the fact that we were able to see him not swing and miss on 76 pitches is, I don't think anyone else in spring can say that.
It's huge for development.
That's incredible for development. A lot of the at-bats, too, are long counts. It's not like it's like 4 or 5. It's not like it's like 4 or 5 or like it's not. No, he's had like 8, 9 plus pitch at-bats.
Right.
So he's had like, what is that? What did I say? So it was 11 at-bats. I think he's walked a couple times. He has 1 walk, so in 12 at-bats, he's seen 76 pitches.
Right.
So let's, if we
average it out,
that is 6.3 pitches in at-bat.
Right.
So, I mean,
solid.
That's really good.
Is it 6 point what?
6.3.
6.3, so call it 6. Like, that's a full count. That's like working a full count every at-bat.
So, and that's on average. It's just,
right.
Yeah. Great things to see. We're not even talking about how he hit a home run 110 miles an hour, 470 feet in his first spring training game.
Right, because you know the power is there. That's not the issue. Like you said, it's the strikeout rate. And that's the stuff you want to look at for spring training, is exactly what we're talking about right now. He's not swinging and missing. He's working the count. That was his biggest weakness. And to see him working on it and succeeding, that's what you're looking for.
Because like I said, he's been a lot more patient, which... I think he may be going a little bit too far extreme on it. Because I think there was like 2 at-bats. I think it was yesterday where I don't think he swung the bat.
Right.
He struck out on both of them.
Right.
And like I think it was struck out on 4 pitches both times.
Right.
So I think, and like I said, I think some of those calls are a little borderline.
Yeah.
But he may be taking it a little bit too far extreme. But he's still hitting 455.
Right.
With a 1265 OPS.
And the other thing could be, like, that might just be what he's working on. You know, he might not want to swing the bat because he just wants to see the ball and test his, ability to, his plate discipline, essentially. Like,
because he knows he's not, there is like a 0.1% chance he makes the major league roster, and I think that's being generous.
Right.
I'm only saying 0.1 because you can never rule it out.
Yeah.
But
so I don't think he has anything necessarily to prove. So it's a matter of, all right, how can I make my game better? And that's obviously plate discipline. Yeah. So that might just be something he's focusing on.
Yeah.
But I digress.
No, a lot of the things you see from him at spring training is just a lot of kind of how Aaron Judge, he's taking him under his wing. So, which he does for literally everyone. So that's just doesn't hurt for him to be in a clubhouse with Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and Giancarlo Stanton. So
right. A lot of veteran guys to look up to.
Exactly. That's all I really got for Spencer Jones. Oh, I completely forgot to mention this for Juan Soto. He was working, I think I told you this, he was working with Jackie Bradley Jr. In the offseason defensively.
Right.
Jackie Bradley Jr., is he out of the league now?
I want to say yeah.
I want to say yes, too.
Yeah.
He was only in the league because he was a elite defensive center fielder.
Yeah.
Only reason he was in the league for Soto to be working with him, great sign.
Right.
Especially because we talked about this a while ago on the podcast, where Soto's defense is like really weird year to year. Like he had 2 years where he was like 90th percentile defense,
right?
And then other years where he was like 10th.
Right, exactly.
So it's like maybe there's just like something that's fluky in his defense that is able to get more consistent with it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, his 2 good defensive years were with the Nationals.
Yeah.
On the Padres, on the other hand, were one of his worst defensive years, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know.
It's about right.
How ballpark plays a factor, but he's probably playing right field, which is obviously a little smaller for the Yankees. So maybe that helps. Right. So maybe that helps out a little bit, but
especially when you have Judge in center too.
Right, who can cover more ground.
So I think that definitely will. And it's also a thing, we're talking about defense with Juan Soto.
He's not there for defense.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
exactly. It realistically does not matter his defense. No. But then moving on to Judge, because people are complaining on Twitter that Judge doesn't have legitimately complaining Judge doesn't have home runs. Hitting 333 with 1,000 OPS.
Right. And how many at-bats? Like 15?
12.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's played that much.
Right.
Who cares?
Whatever.
Again,
process over results.
Yeah. He's hitting 333. Like, that's...
Right.
He has 1,000 OPS without hitting a home run.
Right.
That's impressive.
Right.
That's really impressive.
Right.
So it's
with Judge, especially a guy like Judge, the power will come. That's not an issue. I don't think that's ever going to be an issue. So it will come, again, process over results. I'm going to put that on a fucking t-shirt.
Yes.
Like a...
Sign it on your jersey.
Yeah, exactly. Process over results.
POR?
Like a dividend.
Oh, fucking P divided by O.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. P over R. Process over results.
Yeah, nerd. But the one that I don't know how to feel about this one was Stan.
Speak where it's a therapist.
Yes, it is therapist. This is really the only bad thing I have to like really talk about. Stan has 100 batting average, no home runs.
Right.
The one hit that he did have though was he struggled mightily on fastballs up in the zone. That was him hitting one the other way for a base.
Right.
So it was like 97, 98 miles an hour. He like struggled with like anything above 95.
Yeah.
So it's like
the thing I would like to look into, because I don't know why I thought instantly after you said that his one hit was a ball the other way. When a player gets older, and I'm not saying like Stan's old, but like someone like Robinson Cano, who I instantly thought of, his last year at the Mets, obviously after the PED suspension, when a player gets older, their bat speed decreases, right? Because that's just, you're older, you can't swing as fast.
It's also slower reaction time.
Right. So what happens if you're late on a ball? You're probably going to go the other way.
Yeah.
So I would like to look into his swing speed, if his swing speed has decreased at all. Because if it has, that's an issue, obviously.
Yeah.
Because if he's going the other way all the time, that's great, but you're looking for home runs from Stan.
Yeah.
And he needs to pull the ball, especially in the air, to hit home runs. And if he's going oppo all the time, I think that's a cause for concern.
Yeah. I'm just hoping it's just kind of like him getting used to his body.
Right.
Where
he lost a lot. I'm still waiting for his weigh-in because he looks extremely slim.
Yeah. He may not have even lost that much weight, but more so kind of toned it.
Right.
Where it's like, yeah, he lost some muscle mass, but I don't think it's going to be like 30 pounds.
Right.
Like maybe like 10 pounds.
Right.
But it's just like he's a lot leaner. Because like his calves, for example.
I think that was on the radio. Yeah.
He has some muscular calves.
Right.
Just because there was a podcast I was listening to where they were talking about it. How if you look at his calves, he has very muscular upper calves, which is common among short distance sprinters. So that's obviously what you want from an outfielder and a baseball player.
Right.
Short distance sprinting. So what was that?
A little burpee.
Little burpee.
Get
down.
No.
Down, boy. No, that will definitely be something to note. Again, spring training. Who cares? Process is long. But now, the one that I have been waiting and I've been teasing you with.
Can I look at my phone now?
So it is about. Give me a second. It's about Anthony Volpe. So I don't think we talked about him on here.
No.
But Anthony Volpe, he had a very big uppercut swing last year. And I'm going to write this down in my notes. Volpe swing. So I can show a side-by-side comparison of his swing. If you look at it, he's a lot more uppercut, and this year he's a lot more flat when he gets the ball. And now you can open it.
Yay!
So I have a heat map from Fangraphs.
Oh my goodness.
Where, do you know what this is?
Yeah.
Where I've never looked at one of these before.
I have.
But it pretty much just shows, and I did it based on contact percentage. Because that's what matters with a guy like that. It matters is your contact percentage. Because that's all you need him to be. You look at, he struggles up in the zone, then down and away. But that's also a thing of, with a flat swing, you're still going to be able to do it. It may even be easier to do it because you're not hitting the back of the bat when you're going down into it.
Right.
So I think that definitely will help.
Yeah.
That's going to result in less fly balls. But it's probably going to result in a lot more contact, a lot more base hit.
Right.
So who gives a shit if Anthony Volpe loses 5 runs,
right, exactly.
but adds 30 stolen bases?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. For a guy like Volpe, you're not, the complete opposite of Stanton, you're not looking for home runs.
Yes.
He loses
you
5
want
home
him to
runs.
hit the ball the other way.
Right, but he hits 10 more doubles, whatever. just gets on base more, like you said, steals more bases, Volpe is going to be your future table setter. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for him to get on base, and you're looking to, create chaos on the base paths.
The times where Volpe last season, and this was really early in the year, I can think of there's one specific moment where Volpe was dancing on the base paths, getting in the head of the pitcher threw over once, and he's really paying attention to Volpe. Next pitch throws a hanging slider to Judge, the Judge hits 430 feet. That is the type of stuff that will happen when you have a guy like Volpe on the base paths. And he's also on a pretty good spring. He's hitting 385 with 1,000 OPS. It's also important to note.
He had a good spring last year.
Him and Oswaldo Cabrera were two of the best hitters in Major League Baseball in spring last year.
Right.
I think it was 2 years ago, it may have been last year, that Kyle Higashioka tied the second. It was tied for the most home runs in spring training.
I was just gonna say that.
So was that last year or was it the year before?
I think that was last year. Well, if it was with Bryce Harper, then not last year.
Because it was tied with Harper.
Then it was the year before.
But still, that's
regardless, yeah.
Spring, but we were saying earlier, P over O.
R.
Damn. Process over results. His process is a lot better. We're gonna see him cut down a lot of strikeouts. Great. That's one of the best things I think that we've seen. Just on a sense of people changing their process, that's definitely one of the best things I've seen, because that's gonna lead to so much better stuff.
Oh yeah.
So, do you have anything else on any of the hitters?
I do not. I think my only thing, because you mentioned the uppercut swing, Stan also has an uppercut swing, so maybe there's some issues there. But again, you're looking for fly balls from Stan, so
it's a little.
I don't know if you would want to change anything there, but just something I thought of. But besides that, that's all I got.
Yeah. So I'm only gonna talk about a couple guys for pitching, just because Garrett Cole, he got hit around a little bit, but
Danny Buggers.
I also don't care, because he lit up a home run, but he also looked nasty with other pitches. Danny Buggers. He was sprinting around the bases too. I'm not even being sarcastic. That was as fast as he could run. So let's talk about Marcus Stroman. First start was not good. Wasn't televised, so we can see that. That's a whole nother thing that I didn't even think about to talk about. How stupid MLB is that games aren't televised.
I would say not MLB, but it's more so on the specific teams. Yes. But that's a discussion for another time.
Plus, we never even talked about Fanatics on here.
Yeah. We talked about it on the radio that may be coming to Spotify soon, so keep an ear out for that so you can catch up. But regardless, those are two things that we talked a lot about on the radio.
Yes.
So we're just going to leave it out of here because that can go on for hours.
Yes.
But go on.
But Marcus Stroman. So in his most recent start against Baltimore, 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts. Important to note it's in Baltimore because teams will typically have a lot more starters when they're playing at home. And I know Rutschman, I think Mullins was playing, and they had a couple other actual starters in. So to go 4 innings, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, and he looked pretty good. I think through 3 innings he faced the minimum because he got someone to roll over into a double play. He looked really good. And if you could have that guy as your 4 starter, that's incredible. Just 4.
Yeah. And with Stroman, you're looking for consistency rather than anything overpowering or anything spectacular. You need a guy who can give you, quote unquote, quality start. 6 innings, 3 or less runs. I think for Stroman, that's what you're looking for, and that'll come. Again, pitchers they toy a lot during spring training, so in some starts they might just go fastball because they're wanting to do something else with their fastball. It's. Again,
they want to work on a specific pitch.
Exactly. That's why it's process over results, because the results are misleading due to the fact that they're not using their entire repertoire.
Yeah. And I think even for a guy like Stroman, you also have to realize this is his first year in the Yankees kind of pitching development camp, the pitching philosophy. So he's getting used to learning that philosophy. Mm-hmm. And he's a very high ground ball pitcher. So Matt Blake may be okay, you could even get that higher. You could do this, that.
Right.
And so it's very it's one of those things where very good results, I think that's a good sign because we always say spring training stats don't look too deep, but when people have good numbers, not going to discount them for having good numbers, especially when it's against like a Baltimore team that had a lot of starters. So I'm not saying he's going to be Cy Young this year. Definitely a good sign.
Right, 100%.
Then Carlos Rodon, he had like 2.2 innings start. Like he looked decent, had a good velo, which was like a big thing last year. He did not have velo in spring.
Right.
I think he was like 2 or 3 miles an hour slower than he is right now.
Yeah.
Last year. Nestor has looked healthy, which I think is great. He was messing around with his windup a lot yesterday. I want to say the only run he gave up was on a solo shot. That was in like the first inning. Overall, looked great, looked healthy. I think his velo was up like a mile an hour,
right?
Which pretty good. But now the man that I really wanted to talk about, Parch. So I mentioned on the radio show how it was a cutter. I was wrong.
Okay.
It was a sink.
Okay.
That was the pitch I was talking about. So I found the tweets by Ryan Garcia. So this came from February 24th when Greg Joyce said that Schmidt's sinker averaged 3 more miles an hour than what it did the year before. If you would keep all the horizontal break, all the RPM, all that stuff, but increase the miles per hour by 3, his stuff plus would go up 41%, from 71% to 112. That sounds pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That in a vacuum is really good. But then when you also consider his 2022 stats, which is also a tweet from Ryan Garcia, where he said he also mentioned getting more run on a sinker, and I imagine the goal is him to get it back into 2022 shape, and that'd be massive for him. When you look at it, I did not realize this. In 2022, and by the way, in the second tweet, Ryan Garcia, he realized he messed up something for the release point, so it was actually a 66 stuff plus last year, so even worse.
Right.
In 2022, he had a 155 stuff plus on his sinker. A 155 stuff plus is, I don't want to say elite, but that's pretty damn close.
It's pretty high. I'm not too familiar with stuff plus. I'm still kind of learning it.
I know since it's plus, I know that 100 is average.
Right. So from what I've seen, 155 seems pretty high.
Like I would say, like a 155 WRC plus hitter, I would say is elite.
Right.
So I'd assume 155 stuff plus is elite for a pitch. That's also only one pitch. That's right. Not. So
it's not accounting for the rest of his repertoire. But regardless, really good.
And he was solid last year too. So if you're adding in that weapon, and he's going to be your 5-starter.
Right.
And he has like 7 years of control because that man is literally just up and down in the minors. Like he owns the shuttle between that and Scranton. Like that's really good sign for the future.
Definitely.
So do you have any other notes on, or any other comments on the pitching staff?
I would just like to point out that a few, you kind of mentioned it for Nestor. But I think it also goes for Rodon, is that at this point, you're looking for health.
Yes.
Like, that's priority number 1 for those 2 pitchers. I would say Rodon over Nestor just because of contract and what he could do for this team. But as of right now, it's all about health. As long as he stays healthy, the mechanics are going to come back. I'm pretty confident in saying that. So you're looking for health, and you're looking for, again, a good process.
Yeah.
But besides that, I think rotation looks pretty good.
One thing I forgot to mention, but this is for a reliever.
Okay.
Dennis Santana, friend of the podcast, is in Yankee spring training. Through 4 innings pitched, he has not let up a run, and he has 5 strikeouts.
He has some pretty disgusting stuff.
Yeah.
His time with the Mets was brief, but he had some pretty good stuff that just he couldn't locate sometimes.
10 2/3 innings last year for the Mets.
Right. So the strikeout stuff is there. The pitch stuff is there. It's just all about control for him.
No.
But
the Matt Blake special.
So
that's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some, like, he's a AAA depth guy. Maybe get called up at some point just because that's how relievers are. and friend of the podcast, because he retweeted 2 of our tweets.
Yes.
So, didn't his dad like one or something?
I have no idea.
Whatever.
Something like that.
We love Dennis Santana. And how are we doing on time? Because I got something I can talk about for like a couple minutes, but
we can get through it. We can get through it.
What? Yeah. So, a little update on the Scott Boras saga.
Oh, Jesus.
So, Cody Bellinger and Matt Chapman both signed contracts for about $150 million less than the deals that they were offered.
Right. Very small deals.
Cody Bellinger going to the Cubs and Matt Chapman going to the Giants. But you still got 3 more Scott Boras clients, big ones that are available on the market. And Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, JD Martinez. JD Martinez, not really a factor for the Yankees. Just wanted to mention him because Scott Boras.
Right.
This is horrible. Like, Matt, or not Blake. Blake Snell.
There you go.
Why did I?
Blake,
yeah. Blake Snell is literally streaming a Warzone.
Yeah,
because he has nothing better to do because
it's on the agent.
Because Scott Boras is fucking with his money.
Right. A lot of players, they do the baseball stuff and they let the agent deal with the contract stuff.
But he can't do the baseball stuff.
Because his agent can't get him a contract.
And just
this is another thing that can just go for hours and hours, but Scott Boras is
washed.
Basically. He has slowed down this offseason.
Oh my God.
Like, basically by himself. And now he's paying the price for it. Because now he has his clients signing for a lot less than he anticipated.
2/5 of what they would have gotten.
Right. And it's a disservice to the league. It's a disservice to his clients. And it's a disservice to fans. Because you look at a slow offseason, like, I hate calling this, for like media creators, like content creators, it's tough in the offseason to pump out content when nobody is signing.
And we also have to be on our phones 24/7 because anything can happen at one point.
Right. Matt Chapman signed at even Bellinger signed at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. 3 a.m.
We were at a conference. We were at the conference at UConn.
Right.
We signed, and we were in a hotel room, and I just wake up. I'm like, passing ball at 3 a.m.
Literally, and it's a disservice to a lot of people as a whole, and I feel bad for the players. I know it's they're making millions, but a lot of these guys are looking for a long-term commitment, so they know where they're playing, they know where they can raise a family, and now you're hoping that Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman opt out of these contracts because that means they did well. Yeah. So the Cubs and Giants know that if they do well, they're opting out, which means they have to go back into free agency and they have to go through this process again.
And just something to note, with their contracts, they both signed 3-year deals when they opt out after the first and second year.
Right.
So it's essentially if they want 3 1-year deals.
Right. So it's a disservice overall and extremely frustrating all around. So I'm glad, Bellinger and Chapman now have teams, but again, like you mentioned, there's still 3 pretty big players. And besides those guys, there's a lot of other free agents on the market as well who are not signed, and we're 2 weeks into spring training.
I think, like you said, we could talk about this for hours. I have my theories on how to fix this. We can talk about that another time. I just want to mention that because Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, if there's an injury, maybe the Yankees just throw a bag of money at them.
Right.
I don't think that's really going to happen. I know Jack Hurry said Blake Snell is not likely whatsoever. Jack Hurry's, my God, he says something, I listen to him. All hell, Jack Hurry. But yeah, I don't think any of that's realistic. I just wanted to put that out there.
For sure.
So if you're ready to go on to Queens, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's actually a perfect segue. We there's a potential fit now with some of the news that came out a few weeks ago, but we'll get into Queens and we'll talk about it. All right? Cool. Queens.
Now entering Queens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Queens. The Mets look good overall.
Were they practicing their World Series celebration again?
Not this time, no. the Mets have had a very interesting spring training thus far. It started very poorly, I would say, before a game even began. But there are some things to like from the games. But I want to start off with the bad news, contrary to you. Get the bad news out of the way, and then we can talk about the good.
Well, I was like a sandwich.
Yeah, you know what? You were like a sandwich. No.
I was like a back, because I did talk about bad. No, I was a sandwich.
You were a sandwich.
Because I only had one bad thing.
Yeah. So, this is pretty old news now, but obviously just to catch everyone up to speed, Kodai Senga is expected to miss, I want to say, about the first month or two, at least, like at the earliest, with a posterior capsule strain in his right shoulder, which is obviously his throwing arm. The posterior capsule is basically kind of like the back of your shoulder, which is much better than the anterior capsule, which is the inside of your shoulder. And that's the issues that guys like Brandon Woodruff and Johan Santana had. Obviously, Johan Santana, his career kind of went downhill after that surgery. And Brandon Woodruff, who just got surgery on that shoulder over last year, he's expected to miss this entire year. So the good news is it's the posterior capsule, again, in the back of the shoulder, which is much better news than the anterior.
Yeah.
So what it seems like is Senga's going to miss definitely April, most of May, if I were to guess, and I think you can look for June as the earliest comeback for him.
Mm-hmm.
An article by Will Salmon of The Athletic pointed out that this came out last week, so last Sunday this came out, and the Mets expect a 3-week shutdown for Kodai Senga before he resumes throwing. So that was last week, so now you can expect another 2 weeks of being shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So that will bring you to third week in March. So that will bring you to, call it, March 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Season starts on the 28th. So from March 17th, you have about a month and a half of ramp up, kind of just like spring training, because he's not going to pitch in any games, so he has to basically start from scratch and start throwing and, start a throwing program and then ramp up and all that good stuff. So it sounds like May will be amazing, but June is the best possibility.
Yeah. It's also a thing if you don't want to rush him back. Because most likely the Mets aren't doing anything this year. I say it so much. I don't mean it as, to be a dick Yankee fan, but it's like...
The expectations are much lower.
Yeah.
Even someone like me can't deny that fact.
So it's not a bad idea to just give him extra time. Don't rush it back. You still have 3 more years left on this contract.
Right.
He had 2.4 ERA? Was that the final ERA?
2.9.
2.9. Why did I
2.9.
think?
I
don't know. I'm stupid. But whatever. 2.9 ERA. First year in the major leagues. First year getting used to another country, stuff like that.
Right.
He's going to do a lot better in his second year.
Definitely.
But you obviously don't want to just push that.
Of course. And I think another thing, because I've been thinking about this for a while, that he mentioned he was working on a new pitch, or he didn't even call it. He said he was working on something. So it begs the question on whatever he was working on. Maybe he tweaked something with a new pitch, whatever it was.
Two-way player?
No, I don't think so. I believe he's only pitching, but maybe that had something to do with it. But I digress. Another thing that's important to note is that Senga has an opt-out after 2025, but that's on the basis that he pitches 400 innings between 2023 into 2025. So last year, when I pull it up, he pitched approximately, it was around 160 innings, if I'm not mistaken. 166 innings, 166.1. Mm-hmm. So it's 400 innings in 3 years. So he needs to pitch basically 234 innings between 2 years. So that's about 117 innings between this year and next year.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, if everything goes right, that's pretty doable. I don't think that's, hopefully he doesn't opt out. But that's something else to keep in mind if, God forbid, he misses more time. And the other thing is, it is his shoulder. So this doesn't really mean much, but I thought it was pretty interesting that he has a vested option in 2028.
I'm looking at Spock Track, so I was literally going to ask you what the vested option is. But
right. Yeah. So the vested option kicks in if I'm reading from Spot Tracks, this is word for word. If the player has Tommy John surgery or a right elbow injury that keeps him on the IL for 130 plus days, and that's it. So basically, if he gets Tommy John or he misses 130 days plus with an elbow injury, then I'm not sure if that voids the opt-out, but that vests an option in 2028 for 2028.
Considering it doesn't, I don't think that option or that vested option could happen this year because it's a shoulder, not an elbow. That's if it doesn't happen next year, I'm sure that would be interesting. What would trump the other one?
Yeah, that's what I was
wondering. Would he just not get an opt-out?
Right.
Or it's
very interesting because I know the Mets did have issues with his health during free agency last year, which is why he only signed for the 5-year, $75 million deal. And that's why there's so much language in that contract to, help the Mets and protect the Mets. So, obviously, health concerns were already apparent through last year. Obviously, it's more of his elbow. But it's just something I saw that, something that I thought was worth mentioning. Because, again, the 400 pitches thing, I think... 400 pitches.
Innings.
The 400 innings thing is...
I think you already got that, bud.
Yeah. That's more important than that vested option. I don't think he's going to have an issue reaching that 400 innings mark. But then the next thing is if he's going to opt out, that leaves another hole for the Mets. Again, that's a year from now.
You have two more guaranteed years, right. 2024 and 2025.
Right. But, begs the question of, if he comes back healthy and he looks good, do the Mets try to extend him and basically overwrite the contract he has now? We'll see. But Senga is set to miss time. It's very unfortunate because he was basically your ace. And it sucks because Senga he's a fun player to watch. He's just easy to root for. But I think compared to years past, this Mets team has the depth that is better fitted for times like this. Obviously, Tyler McGill seems to be penciled in as your 5 guy as of right now. But you also have Joey Lucchesi. You have Jose Butto. They're probably not going to come up at the season start, but you have guys like Christian Scott, Mike Vassell, Dom Hamill, guys in the high minors, AA, AAA, who can have an impact this year. Yeah. So if Senga does miss a lot more time, I think this team's a lot better suited to basically fill in those innings. That brings me to my next point, which I kind of alluded to in the Bronx with our guy, Mr. Boras.
Scotty
Boras. What does he know? So, I've been thinking, I still do not want anything for Blake Snell. So, we could wipe him off the board. But with Bellinger and Chapman signing those deals, Bellinger's making about 30 this year. I believe Chapman's making 20.
I will fact check you.
Thank you. So, call it about $5 million more than what was expected. So, say if Bellinger...
Cody and Bellinger will make in 27.5.
27.5.
Then I will get you Chapman.
Right.
Keep going.
Yeah. So, call it $5 million more than what was expected if they signed a longer deal. So, say Bellinger could have gotten...
Chapman's only making 16 base salary.
16, okay. But where I was going with this was $5 million more. Bellinger, say, 25 a year with a longer contract. Chapman, 15 a year with a longer contract. For a guy like Jordan Montgomery, should the Mets pick up the phone, talk to Boris, and be like, hey, is Jordan Montgomery interested in a deal like Bellinger and Chapman just signed? Because I'm thinking Montgomery, because what? He was looking for the Rodon contract, right? He's making how much a year?
26 and a half, 26. I want to say it is.
So, for all intents and purposes, let's call it 25. Do you call up Boris?
27.
27, so let's call it 25. Do you call up Boris and say, hey, is he willing to sign a short-term contract with a $30 million AAV?
I don't think the Mets do.
Neither do I.
Because I think the Yankees should.
Really?
I've been saying this since the beginning of the offseason. I don't think it happens, but I would much rather the Yankees get Jordan Montgomery than Blake Snell because Jordan Montgomery is a proven product in New York. So I think the Mets, I wouldn't hate that if I were the Mets. Like, I think that they should. But
yeah. I also don't see them doing it. It was just something I thought of because, obviously looking at these contracts, I'm sure Montgomery and Snell are probably going to get shorter-term contracts.
That's similar.
Yeah.
Because Correa's Boris, right? I'm not stupid.
Correa did the same exact thing.
Same exact thing.
Right. So, if out of the two, I think Montgomery might still be the one that wants that long-term contract no matter what.
Which is crazy.
Right.
Because Blake Snell just wanted Cy Young.
Exactly. But it's interesting because you have guys like that on the market. There's an obvious need. I'm sure Boris was salivating after he saw the Senga news because obviously that's leverage for him.
Yeah.
So it's an idea, but like we both said, I don't see the Mets doing it because you also have to remember that they are above, contrary to what the roster looks like, they are above the third and final. Is it 3 or 4?
I think it's 3.
Regardless, they're past the highest tax threshold. So anyone they sign in cash, it will cost them 110% more. So just going off the basis, I said they're going to sign Montgomery for 30 years. 30 mil a year. That in cash.
The Mets' estimated actual tax payroll is $309 million.
Right. Obviously, the roster doesn't.
Their tax bill now is $55 million.
Right.
So they're spending, what is that? It says, it says their estimated active money is $233.
Right. So it's like 70 mil in dead money, essentially.
72, if I'm reading that correct.
Right, and that's between Scherzer, Verlander, McCann, guys like that. But if they sign somebody, it will cost 110% more. So if you sign Montgomery for 30 a year, you are paying $63 million in cash.
Now that's a huge deal. That shouldn't be scoffed at.
Definitely. And again, I understand the
Stevie Cohen.
Right, I couldn't think of the word, but just of that face that he has, yeah, he has a lot of money, but he doesn't have all this money for no reason,
I was going to say, he didn't get all that money by just spending it to spend it.
Exactly, he's a businessman, and obviously if you have to pay more than double of what you want to invest, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Because what is he going to do? He's going to sign another pitcher for $30+ million a year, trade them for prospects at the deadline, keep their contract for prospects that you never know could be nothing.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, You're just putting yourself deeper down into a hole when you have a decent amount of prospects right now that you either could see how they come up or you could trade them to see for someone else.
Right.
And you're going to have how many deals come off within the next, 2 years?
Yeah.
2 or 3 years?
They have a lot of money coming off the books next year alone.
Yeah.
I think Scherzer's is definitely over. Verlander, it depends on how much he pitches. Pretty sure McCann's contract is done. Who else? Jose Quintana's a free agent after next year. Sean Manaea, you hope does...
Total payroll payroll allocations this year, $283 million. Next year, it's $155.
Right. Huge difference. So, like you said, just like that, paying, a shitload of money to then trade, to then have dead money on the books, it's unsustainable when you have guys in the minors who can make an impact this year.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you're not going to want to keep going to free agency and keep spending and keep spending and keep spending. You're hoping, Christian Scott can be a staple in the rotation. You're hoping Mike Vasso can be something.
Joey Lucchesi.
Man, I don't know about him. Maybe that's a long guy.
Bill Bickford.
No. But you're hoping those guys can actually stay in the majors and be productive. So you then can spend money elsewhere. An extension for Alonso. An extension on Senga.
First off, Phil Bickford was a first-round pick.
Really?
18th overall pick.
Wild.
Go on, sorry. That's so out of left field.
But again, you can spread money elsewhere to make your team better if these prospects pan out when there's a lot of prospects willing to make an impact this year. So that's why we're at the place it is, and that's why I don't think they're going to sign someone like Montgomery or even J.D. Martinez, because you got to see what Vientos has. You got to roll with Beatty. Drew Gilbert is knocking on the door. Luis Angel Acuna is right behind him. I wouldn't bet against Jet Williams. He seems like a very confident young man, and I'm very excited to see him. So you have guys knocking on the door, and there's a lot of opportunity to go around. So why are you going to basically block them by signing another veteran when obviously that plan hasn't worked out the past 2 years?
Yeah. I'm just messing around on Spock Track, just looking at stuff with the Mets, stuff like that. I want you to, and this is off topic, I want you to guess the top 5 career earners on the Mets. Not all the money came with the Mets, but the top 5 players that have earned the career amount of money that are still playing on the Mets.
Still playing?
That are currently playing on the Mets.
Probably Lindor.
He's number 1.
Yeah.
Nimmo is not on here.
Okay.
Money that they already earned.
Already earned?
Yes. Not all the money had to be with the Mets.
Interesting. Who's old? Marte?
He's number 2. There's 2 names that shocked me here.
Diaz?
3, actually. What number is he?
I don't know.
You don't want to guess?
5.
5.
So I'm missing 3 and 4?
Yes.
Let's look at rotation. No.
Perfect.
What?
Rotation, yes.
Yeah? Oh, not Severino.
He's number 4.
No way. What?
$60 million career earnings.
Jeez. Quintana?
Quintana is number 3.
That's wild. That's a certainly a group of players of all time.
I looked at that and I just thought that was like such a random group of players.
No, it is.
So I just wanted to.
And that's all within the past 4 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
6 years.
Yeah, that's insane. But regardless, I think we rambled a little bit on that.
Yeah.
But
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Senga's going to miss time. It's unfortunate, but don't expect the Mets to really go out and do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because now we can actually talk about spring training. Tyler McGill has looked better in spring training. I'm going to pull up his stats if I can find them. But I believe he's pitched a few innings now. He's had 2 starts, I believe. And yes, here it is. He's pitched 5 innings. He struck out 7. And he has a whip under 1.
Cy Miguel.
And I believe this might have been on the radio because I'm just mixing everything up now. He starts off well.
Yes, you talked about that.
Yeah, and he was the opening day starter in 2022. That first month, he had an ERA under 2. I can't remember last year, but last year he ended the year really well. I think he had around like a high 2s ERA at the final month.
I remember having this exact conversation.
Right. So he starts well, and he's toying with a splitter that we haven't seen too much. But I'm just more ecstatic about the whip because last year in spring training, let's see, he pitched 17 innings and he walked 13 batters. 13 walks in 17 innings.
That is high.
Bad. Where's the whip? His whip was 1.59, basically 1.6. Again, 5 innings. He has not walked a batter yet. No walks. 7 strikeouts in 5 innings so far. That's been one of his biggest concerns, I guess, is his control and his location. Because again, like the whip has always been high, but if he can limit the walks, if he could limit, the base runners, like I said, Senga might be back by June. If he can just be consistent for 2 months, I think that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
So, McGill's looked good. I'm excited to see how his splitter plays out. He hasn't used it much because he's working on his control. Because why are hitters going to swing at a splitter if you don't know where it's going or you can't throw a strike? So if your fastball is not hitting the zone, how is it going to play off your splitter if it's also not in the zone? But besides that, I believe everyone in the rotation, I think Quintana also had a start. Everyone's pitched at least once. Adrian Hauser is a ground ball god. That's his thing. That's what he's doing. Sean Manaea had his first start a few days ago. His stuff
looks like he
good.
just got put into rehab.
Yeah, he shaved everything. He has very short hair now, and he looks really weird. But I also didn't know this. He threw a no-hitter with the Athletics, and he threw a no-hitter with short hair. All I'm saying is the last time a Mets pitcher cut their hair from long hair to short hair before the season started, they won the Cy Young. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And then, of course, I guess the biggest
Yeah, and
guy,
the last time the Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers played in the Super Bowl, Corona happened. Well, I don't see how there's...
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
No?
It's just...
Okay.
Your mind just can't comprehend my statistical analysis. So it's okay. Don't worry. You'll understand when you're older.
Okay.
But I guess the biggest guy now that Senga's down is Luis Severino. And he had his first start a few days ago. He hit 98, which is great. But I'm sure you can attest, velocity hasn't really been the issue.
It's weird. It's so weird with him.
Right. If you would like to delve more into that.
Because there'll be some games where the velocity is not an issue, then he'll get hurt. There's other times the velocity was the issue, and then he gets hurt because of the velocity.
Right.
So it quite literally means nothing.
Yeah.
It's good to see he has the velocity, but that could mean he's one of those guys that it doesn't... Him having good velocity doesn't exactly necessarily equate to health.
Right. And that's the biggest thing, health. For like Rodon and Cortez, for Severino, you need health. You're looking for health. As long as he's healthy through spring, you deal with everything else in the regular season.
I can't remember how many times. I want to say there's at least 2 spring trainings that he was just 2 or 3 that he was just not healthy.
Right.
2019 for sure, because that's when he got Tommy John. 2020 he wasn't in spring.
Right.
I think it was last year he wasn't in spring.
Right.
And so that really is just the big thing.
Yeah, definitely. But I guess we'll stay on pitchers, but we'll move down to the bullpen. Diaz hasn't pitched yet, but I believe he's scheduled to pitch tomorrow, or at least later this week. So it'll be fun to see him on the mound again. But the biggest story thus far is, I joked about it in the intro, but Nate Lavender has been extremely impressive. He's a lefty. I think he was a 2021 pick. And, he doesn't throw hard. He tops out around 92.
There's no way with your last name being Lavender that you're going to throw hard.
Exactly. But he's a lefty pitcher, and he's crafty. He's weird. His extension, once he gets into the majors, his baseball savant extension is probably going to be in the upper 90s. he really gets down on the mound, and he makes that 92 look 98.
He was the 2021 draft pick, 14th round.
14th round, right. And he had a really good season last year in the minors. And he probably...
2.98 ERA in 54 innings pitched with 86 strikeouts.
Right. I would have argued that he should have been up last year. But, again, just having another lefty that you can possibly go to, say if Rayleigh or Diekman struggle, just having another lefty that you can bring up is unheard of for the Mets, let alone having two lefties in the bullpen and Rayleigh and Diekman alone. Just having a third in your back pocket is just insane to me. Mm-hmm. This is like a new coming. But no, he's looked really good. I believe he still hasn't let up a hit. He's struck out a majority of the guys he's faced, and he's just looked really impressive. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him later in the year. But besides that, I don't think Ottavino's gotten a game yet.
No.
Diekman pitched yesterday.
Diekman's been with a lot of teams, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like looking at his thing just because you mentioned health, so I was going to see health isn't too big of a concern.
Yeah.
But it still is something. But he's been on, this is his 9th team.
Right.
I think that is, right?
I think he's like 38, 39.
36.
Yeah, he's up there.
Or he turned 37 43 days ago. Happy belated birthday, Jake Diekman.
But yeah, so I'm liking everything I'm seeing from the pitchers. So, yay. But moving on to hitters, everyone looks fine. Lindor looks like Lindor. He's hitting decent. I mean, which version?
Because there was like kind of 2022.
I see.
Where it was more like contact oriented, a couple
right.
pop, or 2023 where it was more like
power. You're right. But overall, I'm not sure I can say just yet. I think he hasn't gotten too many hits, but again, process.
Yeah.
He's still playing excellent defense. Alonso's hit a home run. Nimmo got in his first game the other day. I forgot about this. McNeil hasn't gotten into a game because he tweaked his bicep the other day in batting practice. The Mets don't sound too concerned, but obviously something to kind of keep an eye on. So he hasn't gotten a game yet. Like I mentioned earlier, Bader hasn't gotten a game yet, but I think that's more so just a personal thing. Because, Nimmo just got in a game the other day, but that's because the past few years, that's what he's been doing. He's getting into it late to hopefully, have a better health.
Do you think that Nimmo talked to Bader, or Bader asked Nimmo about that?
I would hope so.
Because they kind of were similar in the sense of
extremely,
very good defensive center fielder, just had a lot of injury concerns.
Yeah. Obviously, not like one for one. But,
not yet.
Yeah, but at a health standpoint, extremely similar.
Yeah.
Because before 2022, I think Nimmo's healthiest season was 2018. I think 2021 wasn't terrible. But, Bader misses time, every single year. So I would hope maybe Nimmo talked to him or Bader talked to Nimmo, kind of pick his brains, see where he's at.
Before 2022, Nimmo only played in more than 92 games once.
Right. That was 2018.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2018 he played 140.
Right. So, I hope that's something they looked into. That would probably be extremely helpful because he's set to play a pretty large role for this team going into the year. But I think it's the kids that you're really looking for in spring training. It's Beatty and Vientos. Beatty, he's hit his first home run over the weekend, but like I joked around earlier, he's still hitting the ball on the ground too much. He's still killing those worms. Doesn't matter how hard you hit the ball. If it's on the ground, it's very little chance it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But, it's all about lift. There was an article I saw, a couple weeks ago. I think it was on The Athletic but basically it talked about how, which I never thought about, Beatty's a left-handed hitter, but he's a right-handed fielder. Mm-hmm. And the issue with that is if he's a right-handed fielder, his dominant hand isn't on top when he's up to bat.
Mm-hmm.
So that can lead to kind of like dropping a little bit. And if you look at Beatty, a lot of his swings are very uppercutty. So it's just getting that balance because you're not using your dominant hand. It's not your dominant side.
You should talk to Lindor.
That's smart. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lindor, a switch hitter. He throws
righty.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
I was thinking like Seager. Like Seager's a perfect example of that.
Right.
I was trying to like think of other guys that were the same way.
Pretty sure McNeil is a righty thrower as well.
I will fact check you right now.
But yeah, it's just like getting that hand to balance seemed to be a pretty important.
McNeil is those right.
Yeah, so that's been a pretty big emphasis of his. But he talked to reporters after the game. I think it was yesterday. Like the result, like we keep saying, the results aren't there in spring training, but he feels good with the way he's feeling in the cage and and live BP and just the stuff that we don't see.
Yeah,
we don't see
the behind
all
the
of
scenes.
It. Right, he feels good, and obviously, I think one of his biggest issues was confidence. And if he's going into the year confident, then I feel pretty good about it because I'm not willing to write him off yet. Obviously,
you can't. He was the top 20 prospect in baseball,
something like that. Definitely top 30.
But
definitely tough year last year. But I think he has the chance to be a very important part of this team.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I would wish if Fangraphs can go like a little bit quicker. Yeah, in 2023, he was a 19th ranked prospect in baseball.
Right, so top 20. Like, you just don't write those guys off.
You definitely cannot.
It's tough. And especially playing in New York, it's definitely a learning curve.
People got to realize not everyone is going to be Julio Rodriguez, Aaron Judge, what?
No, I was like,
I thought you said Nimmo. I was going to say, what?
No.
But not everyone's going to be like that where they just come up, take the league by storm, and then they're a superstar player right away. That's not going to happen, especially in a place like New York. Like, I know we got spoiled because we saw Glaber, Judge, Alonso. Obviously, Glaber's not on that level. I'm just because he came out of the gates. That doesn't happen.
No.
Like, that's very rare that happens. So just give him, he's almost in the same spot as Volpe, where, you give him another year or two to really see what they have.
And like you mentioned earlier, Mets don't have the biggest expectations this year, so this is the year that
you let the kids run wild.
Right. You give them runway. You let them do what they got to do. But to further your point, you look at just in division, Austin Riley did not start his career off well, and now he's considered, a top 3 third baseman. In his first
probably the second best.
Right. His first full year in 2019, in 80 games, he had an 86 OPS plus. He hit 18 home runs. But again, 86 OPS plus, a 279 on base percentage, that's nothing inspiring. Mm-hmm. He walked 16 times and struck out 108 times, And then, 2020, take it for what you will. Same thing. He had an 86 OPS plus. He had his on base percentage was hovering 300. And he walked the same amount of times he did last year, 16 times, and then struck out basically 50. And then in 2021 is when he really broke out. And from then on, he's been considered one of the best third basemen.
And even you could take that a step further because we mentioned Judge. If you take Judge's, because baseball's so weird with, rookie years and, what's classified. If you take his first cup of tea in the majors, he was worse than that.
Right.
179 batting average, 263 on base, 345 slugging for a 61 OPS plus, and now he's the best hitter in baseball.
Right. So you just have to give it time. Right.
And how old is Beatty?
22, 23, something like that.
Gotta give him time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Judge was 25 when that happened.
Right.
So.
Then, the other guy is Mark Vientos, who obviously is not as highly regarded, but we've talked about him in the past. I like the potential he has. I still don't think they should be signing a DH. I think they still need to give him time. But, he's looked okay in spring. He's played some third base. He's been at DH. I think he played some first. Again, this is the year to give these kids that runway. But to wrap things up, I want to talk about the new manager, Carlos Mendoza. I have liked a lot from what I've seen from him early on. He seems like just such a genuine, like, nice guy. He's very, like, free. He gives off a really good vibe. Like, I liked Buck, but, he's very old school. He's very stern. And
you may get a spoon up the you-know-what if you, like, boot a ground ball.
Right. And from what I've seen, Mendoza can be like that, but he also knows when to be, like,
knows when to push and pull.
Right. He knows when to be, like, quote-unquote, like, one of the guys. Just, like, hang out with the team and just, like, mesh. And just from what I've been reading, there's a different vibe in that clubhouse. It's a lot more free, a lot more comforting, I guess. Uh-huh. They know they don't have great expectations, but at the same time, that could be a chip on their shoulder.
No, I don't remember what it's about, but I know it's a book I had to read.
But, no, I've really liked what I've seen so far, and my biggest thing for a manager is if he can keep the clubhouse, I don't want to say in line, but if he can kind of keep that clubhouse under his wing.
Consistent?
Yeah, I think consistent's a good way to put it. If he can keep that clubhouse consistent and not let his players, get in their own head and kind of know when to lift them up and also know, like you said, when to push, I think he's going to have a good time. I think he's going to have a good year. And I'm very excited to see how he plays out in the regular season because from what I've seen, pretty good reviews so far.
Yeah, he kind of had to be that way, where it was like kind of the ice to Boone's fire.
Right.
So it's like he kind of had to be like that low-key kind of thing. And
like almost good cop, I guess, if you want to call Boone bad cop.
Nah, Boone, maybe to the umpires.
Right.
But to the players, Boone was always, but yeah.
Right, but regardless, I've really liked what I've seen from him, but, besides that, it's really all I got for the Mets.
Yeah,
if you want to add anything.
No? You do the outro, bitch.
Understood. All right, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening.
Radio show,
yes. This week we are on Thursday from 6 to 7, but usually we will be on Fridays from 5 to 6. If you're in the Connecticut area, we are on 88.7 on your FM dial. If not, the link will be below to the live stream where you can listen to anywhere. Again, that is Friday from 5 to 6, the Triboro Sports Show. We talk more than baseball. Obviously, with baseball season ramping up, it's going to be a lot of baseball. So if you just can't get enough of me and Justin, got to check us out. We're also with our good buddy Ian. He's also a great new voice for our dynamic.
He will be on the podcast soon enough.
Exactly. You guys will meet him in his glory, his uncensored glory.
I can't wait to see that.
But again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. You guys subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And follow us on Spotify. Leave reviews, all that good stuff. And baseball season is upon us.
See you guys next time.